Sheila Carter emerged from the hospital doors into a late afternoon drizzle, her steps wavering as she paused beneath the flickering street lamp. A lean, sharp woman with half her hair shaved away and the other half cascading in dark waves, she had survived the operating room's frantic scramble only hours before, doctors marveling that a bullet meant for her heart had glanced off rib and lung, leaving her alive but weakened. As she reached for the handrail of the wheelchair ramp, a sudden crack split the air, a thunderclap of violence so close it seemed to echo inside her skull. Instinct drove her to the ground as the world tilted sideways, rain-wet pavement blurred into a smear of neon and sirens. She felt a searing pain in her left side, not her heart this time, but close enough to remind her how fragile flesh could be. Paramedics burst from the hospital doors and swept around her in a coordinated wave of urgency. Someone snapped off a tire iron to shield her as they loaded her into a gurney, the world above reduced to shimmering headlight halos and the steady beat of her faltering pulse. When the rain finally relented, the bullet that had nearly killed her was lying harmlessly inches from where she had knelt, its casing glinting in the streetlight's ghostly glow. Detective Rivera crouched beside the spent shell, gloved fingers tracing its ridged edge as he radioed the forensics lab. The casing's head stamp was faint but telling, a match for the 9mm pistol registered to Penelope "Poppy" Hamilton, private investigator. The revelation set off shockwaves through the FB precinct and the Forrester Finnegan inner circle alike. Jack Finnegan, who had arrived at the scene at a sprint upon hearing of Sheila's second assassination attempt, slapped the detective's shoulder in disbelief. "Poppy? That little viper's been prying at my life for months. Hired by Lee to dig dirt on me, and now this," he barked, eyes blazing with hurt and anger. Across the street, Lee Spencer emerged from beneath his luxury sedan, a pale silhouette in the rain-soaked haze. His face was a mask of anguish, eyes narrowing at both Detective Rivera and Jack. "You knew Poppy has my gun, Jack," he hissed, voice trembling on the edge of fury. "I reported it stolen days ago. Maybe you took it to track me down? Maybe you sent her after Sheila to distract from your embezzlement scheme at Forrester Creations." Jack snorted in contempt. "Please. You're the one clawing for a foothold in Finn's life, desperate to get your hands on that smart fabric formula to make up for your losses. You need a scapegoat. Why not frame me?" Their voices rose into a thunderous volley of accusations that ricocheted off slick walls and empty storefronts, violent words that pounded as fiercely as the rain. Detective Rivera held up a hand to restore order, but the tension crackled like static. Two men who had once called each other family now each blamed the other for ordering a shot at a woman they claimed to despise. And neither side seemed willing to defuse the bomb ticking beneath them. Inside her hospital room, Sheila lay propped by pillows, her face ashen but hair still drenched where the rain had plastered it to her cheek. Finn entered quietly, his heart battered by the recent funeral for Luna and now racing with fresh dread. He knelt beside her bed, cupping her hand in both of his. "Who would do this?" he whispered, tone laced with guilt that he was alive while Luna was gone. Sheila's eyes fluttered open, a faint, sardonic curve to her lips. "Not now, Finn," she rasped, and he saw the spark of her indomitable will beneath the foreline. "I'll tell you when I have to. Just believe me when I say it wasn't Luna. Leave her name out of this." Finn recoiled, memories of Luna's brave testimony still etched in his mind, the evidence she had brought to light against Lee, the recordings of Lee's manipulations. Luna, he thought, sacrificed to expose Lee's darkest secrets. Could she now be the killer's true quarry? The question settled in his chest like a stone as Lee's earlier plea, "You must trust your mother," echoed in his ears, turning maternal love into a cage of suspicion. Back outside, the police sealed off the street and set up a forensic grid around the shell casing. A patrol car idled at each end of the block while other officers canvassed for witnesses. One of them had spotted a black sedan speeding away moments after the shot, but no license plate had been caught. The detective speculated in hushed tones. Had Poppy hired out the weapon to a masked hitman who meant to kill Luna but struck Sheila by mistake? Or was someone keen to frame Poppy by using her gun to murder Sheila and force Jack and Lee into a public feud, distracting the media from deeper conspiracies within Forrester Creations' R/and D division? Rumors spiraled through precinct channels. Detectives whispered Luna's name as potential target, citing the number of enemies she had amassed in her crusade against Lee's clandestine clinic. She had documented Lee's Project Valkyrie, and before her death she'd planned to expose another secret. Proof that the smart fabric formula had been tampered with, that whoever controlled it could weaponize it. If someone wanted to silence that threat, Luna's demise might have been only the beginning. Inside the hospital's administration office, Jack and Lee found themselves accused of unintentional collaboration by their own lawyers. Jack's counsel argued that Lee must have orchestrated the shooting to stoke animosity between Ridge and Finn, weakening potential alliances that threatened Spencer Publications' hostile takeover bid of Forrester Creations. Lee's attorney countered that Jack, furious over losing control of the company's brightest asset, Finn's surgical protégé status under Lee's roof, had conspired with Poppy to stage an assassination attempt on Sheila, his sister-in-law, to derail a custody hearing for Hayes and paint Lee as an unfit parent. Neither side could produce a smoking gun, only the casing, the bullet's trajectory, and heightened motives that read like a courtroom drama. Meanwhile, the DA's office prepared a grand jury petition to compel Poppy's testimony, while rallying forensic teams to trace fingerprints on the hospital door and pull CCTV footage from every camera along the route Sheila had taken. As dusk bled into night, Finn paced outside Sheila's room, every shadow a threat, each echo a reminder of his impotence to save Luna. He gripped the railing of the nurse's station in silence, then steeled himself and strode into the corridor. Nurses and aides scattered before him, giving way to his mourning posture, broad shoulders slumped, jaw clenched against grief. He moved to the window overlooking the boulevard, peering at the flickering police lights below. Beneath their rotating glow, he saw Jack's dark silhouette confer with Detective Rivera, Lee's anguished shape leaning in to point at the casing evidence. And he thought of Luna, her bright defiance the day she had stood in court to bring down Lee, and now the whisper on every detective's lips, she was the true target. Finn clenched his fists. He would unravel this third attempt on his family's life even if he had to follow every lead himself, question every friend and foe, to prove who had stalked Luna in death and why. Upstairs in the corridor, Steffi Forrester Finnegan arrived with Hayes in her arms, his tiny face peering from beneath a soft blanket. She slipped into Sheila's room unannounced, finding Finn staring out the window, sorrow etched into his face. Quietly, she laid a hand on his arm. "She's stable," she said, voice soft as twilight, and he nodded without turning. "But whoever tried to kill her isn't done," he murmured. "They found Luna too easy, now they're coming after the rest of us." Steffi's heart clenched. Only days ago she had discovered she was carrying their third child, a flicker of hope in their battered lives, and now that hope stood threatened by a killer who had already silenced Luna and nearly claimed Sheila. They shared a glance heavy with shared fear and steeled resolve. Outside, the police raised their shields and prepared to storm the hospital entrance, ready for whoever might emerge with a gun. Finn and Steffi exchanged a glance that spoke volumes. They would guard their family, protect their unborn child, and unmask the predator hiding behind Poppy's weapon, no matter how deep the conspiracy ran. In the forensic lab, the casing was rinsed and imaged under the microscope. Poppy's fingerprints marked the chamber, but that only confirmed ownership, not culpability. Ballistic analysts confirmed the round had been fired at a downward angle, suggesting the shooter stood on a balcony above the hospital entrance before ducking back inside. Security logs showed that Poppy's private office did have access to that balcony via a back stairwell, but no sign of Poppy herself, Only one other person, a figure in scrubs seen on camera entering 10 minutes earlier. The lab technician's breath caught. The scrubs matched the uniform of a resident from Lee's now-shuttered clinic. A follow-up call to the clinic's HR records yielded a name scratched off the roster 2 months ago, Luna Alvarez. The same Luna who was supposed to be dead, whose body had been interred under the echoing gloom of Ridge's chapel. Finn, overhearing the news over the police radio feed, froze. Luna Alvarez, the daughter he had thought lost, was alive. Someone had staged her death, or someone had slipped her identity to the shooter as the real target. The pieces snapped into place in his mind like bones clicking back into a skeleton. Luna had faked her death to stay hidden. Someone reached her anyway, tried to finish the job at the hospital. Sheila had been collateral damage. Now the chase was no longer about corporate secrets or vendettas between parents. It was about finding Luna, saving her again, and unraveling a conspiracy that threatened not just the Forrester-Finnegan clan, but every life they held dear. Beneath the hum of fluorescent lights and the distant wail of police sirens, Finn turned to Stephy, determination blazing in his eyes. She gripped Hayes tighter, the child's innocence a beacon against the darkness closing in. "I'll find her," Finn vowed, voice low and honed by grief and rage. "And whoever tried to kill her, and anyone who aided them, will face justice." Steffi nodded, tears glinting in her lashes, prayer and hope mingling on her lips. Outside, the detectives called for backup, ready to pursue the balcony stairwell, but Finn was already moving, a solitary figure stalking down the corridor toward the ICU exit. Somewhere in the rain-soaked streets of Los Angeles, Luna Alvarez waited, alive, hunted, and the key to exposing a plot so deep it threatened to drown them all in secrets. And as the city's lights flickered against the gathering storm, one truth gleamed brighter than any bullet casing: the bold and the beautiful would fight for their own, no matter the cost.